Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. This is the September MnSTAC Forum. We have a number of great presenters today. It's a September forum and we will be recording and posting this forum as well. So if you miss anything or want to rewatch it or share it, we'll be posting that as well. If you're not familiar with, this is the Minnesota Shade Tree Advisory Committee. So we are a committee that's a statewide board of folks from across the industries and across the state whose goal is to be a leading advocate for Minnesota's community forests and to empower and educate Minnesotans to maximize the coverage, health, function, and quality future of our community forests. Woo! So that's MnSTAC, and we have a number of wonderful guest speakers today. We host these monthly free forums to give anybody interested in trees an opportunity to learn about research projects, organizations, community groups, and connect academic studies, lots of topics. We also have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Monday that has a wide variety of jobs, events, trivia, research, studies, and I'll drop some links in the chat throughout this as well. Our topic today is $33 million for our trees and communities, learning from Urban and Community Forestry IRA grant recipients. So we'll be learning from 5 of the 8 organizations that were awarded money, which is fantastic. It's super exciting. Those of you that don't know, the IRA, sometimes called IRA, or the Inflation Reduction Act, was passed in 2022. And then grant award recipients for the urban and community forestry portion were given or allocated over $1 billion, which is absolutely incredible and outstanding funding we've never seen before in many ways. And so last year awardees were announced, and these are 5 of those 8 candidates that were awardees from Minnesota. So they did award across the United States and territories, which is really cool. And let's see. Oh, and the grant it's especially focused on increasing equitable access to trees and green spaces and the benefits that they provide. So that was a specific focus. Our presenters today include Sydney Schaff from the city of Minneapolis, Jeff Haberman from the city of Rochester, Katie Edmond from Great River Greening, Monica Randazzo from the Hennepin County, and Ryan Murphy from the University of Minnesota's team. And we also have grantees that aren't here today, but are also fabulous, are the city of Shoreview, city of St. Paul, and the city of Richfield. Each presenter is going to give about 5 to 8 minutes to speak about their work and how the grant is being fostered in their own community organization and possibly ways to learn more or get involved. If you have questions, please type them into the chat. I'll be monitoring that, but we will save questions until the end after all 5 folks have gone. And then I'll just pepper those into whomever they're based on or general. And then we'll also, like I mentioned, we'll be recording this, posting it to our YouTube page. And I'll also drop a link to that in the chat too. So without further ado, first up, we have Sydney from the city of Minneapolis. So Sydney, feel free to start sharing your screen and presenting, and we'll get going.
Okay. Can you all see that? And it's in presenter mode?
Yep, okay. You're good to go.
Excuse me. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Sydney Schaff. I work for the city of Minneapolis in the health department. I'm the city trees program manager. I manage a private property tree program here at the city. Our goal in the city trees program is to increase equity around private property tree canopy and private property tree removals as well. So we received $8 million in this funding. Our program title was the Equitable Tree Canopy Management Program. It is a joint application with the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board because in Minneapolis, diseased or infested trees like ash, oak, and elm are condemned by the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, and hazardous trees are condemned by our Regulatory Services Division. So we're working with those 2 departments to provide financial assistance to people that receive a condemnation notice that their tree needs to be removed. We'll also offer free stump grinding and replacement tree planting free of charge to those eligible participants. And I'll get a little bit more into that on the next slide. We're also using the funding to hire 2 new City Trees program staff. So we have a tree outreach coordinator, which is very exciting. He will be starting on Monday, actually. And then we're also hiring a community forester that will be starting at the end of October. We also have funding for community partnerships and environmental education and green careers exploration. And then the note at the bottom, the reason that we pursued this funding is because of advocacy from community members in Minneapolis that really raised to our awareness the need for financial assistance for these really expensive private property tree removals. So almost 6 of our $8 million is going towards private property tree and stump removals, and then a replacement tree planting. So if residents qualify, we cover all 3 of those services completely free of charge for them. We knew we wanted to make the application process as simple and easy as possible. So we have been working really closely with Hennepin County to have some alignment in our eligibility requirements. So it's equal for everyone across the city and the county. So we determined that in order to be eligible, residents would have to be at or below 80% of the area median income, which this year is $97,800, or enrolled in a social service program. I don't know if you all are familiar with like HUD applications or anything like that, but they tend to be really arduous, requiring a ton of documentation, and it's a lot of work for the residents to gather all of that necessary information. And so we're really happy that the Forest Service was so flexible and was totally happy with just keeping it simple. We just need one. We're like, if you already are in a social service program, if you had to submit all of that intensive documentation for a different program, we know you'll qualify for our program too. So we have an online version, and we also, people can request a mailed hard copy version. We have it translated into our other top 3 languages that are spoken in Minneapolis: Spanish, Somali, and Hmong. We have a phone number and email available that people can always call our team and ask any questions if they're confused at any part of the application. We started accepting applications in July. We've received about 50 applications so far. We can tell that people are really, really appreciative of this. When we talk to people, they tell us that they would not have been able to afford this, that they were freaking out when they got the notice that their tree needed to be removed, saw the bill that was going to, the estimate that it was going to be $5,000+. And so when we tell them that we can cover everything completely free of charge, it's a really great feeling because they're just so appreciative and are like, wow, we would not have been able to, we don't know what we would have done without this program. So another element of our grant is community partnerships. So in the health department, we really try to work with community organizations that already have connections to the community, especially those communities that we're trying to reach, like people in our environmental justice areas, communities of color, low-income communities. And so we put out an RFP and have 5 contracts that we're working on finalizing with local community organizations to provide education and outreach. On the left is just a couple of the programs and trainings and workshops that the groups are planning on offering. And on the right, we have some pictures of a nature walk and activity that we were able to host in Spanish. And that was one of our community tree workshops. So this summer, also partnering with Ryan and Sonia and several other partners, hosting some educational tree workshops. We did a series of 5 in English and 5 in Spanish. We found some really great organizations like Huelas Latinas and then a private contractor, Layla Lopez, who were able to teach those workshops directly in Spanish to Spanish-speaking participants, which is really great because we don't have to have an interpreter there who may not be as familiar with the technical tree terms. So we were really excited to be able to find those partners that can just provide that material in their native language to other Spanish speakers. And so, yeah, the goal of this was just to help people learn a little bit more about how to care for the trees in their yard, get people more comfortable being in nature, learning something new about trees, and building some confidence. So that is my very brief overview. So I'm always happy to talk if anyone has any questions. I know we'll cover those at the end, or that is my contact information. if you want to reach out to me. So thank you. Oh, Sonia, you're on mute.
What is it? What am I, newbie? Is it? All good, all good. Thank you very much, Sydney, for sharing. Such great stories. Jeff, if you'd like to give a talk, I don't believe you have, or no, yes, you do have slides. So share it whenever you'd like.
Okay. Let me know if you can see this.
Oh, it looks like you're in speaker mode. Interesting.
What did I do? Let me try something different here. I had
All good.
options. I'm going to try.
There we go. Full screen, full steam ahead.
All right. Awesome. So my name is Jeff Haberman. I'm a city forester in Rochester, and Rochester was awarded $1 million through the Inflation Reduction Act grant opportunity. And it's going to help fund our Healthy Trees, Healthy City initiative, which is a tagline from our recently approved Urban Forest Master Plan. That plan sets a canopy cover goal of 35% citywide. And so this grant is going to help us achieve that goal quicker than we would have been able to by planting trees. And so our goal of this grant is to plant over 2,000 trees on private property. And this is something we've never been able to offer residents here before. So we look at it as a fantastic opportunity for our residents, and we're super excited about it, but we realize that there's going to be challenges to overcome, including, we've never really worked out how to access private property, achieving proper tree care, being that the trees are being planted on private property. But there's also going to be some opportunities we feel that go along with this grant, and that will include the ability to plant trees on private property to affect energy conservation and be able to offer food producing trees, fruit and nut trees that normally we would not plant. And so here are the areas that qualify for free trees, and these are the underserved areas as indicated in the EJ40 map, and then also the EPA's environmental justice screening tool. There's approximately 4,000 households that are going to be impacted here and be able to take advantage of this. Now, I do have to say we haven't planted any trees yet. This first year we sort of earmarked as our opportunity to gather information, solicit residents that want free trees. And this is showing a mailer that is in print right now and ready to go out to all residents that live in those areas that I just showed. The QR code will take them to a free tree sign up page and ask for their contact information. Let's see here. Contact information, tree preferences, and just a few other questions about where they would prefer to have trees planted on their property. One of our other concerns related to planting on private property is how are we going to ensure that people are going to be able to take care of them and make them live long and prosper. And so we're also in the process of developing online training courses. I'm showing our tree pruning course here, but we've got 3 courses that we're going to develop in hopes that everybody who receives trees is going to go through these courses and successfully pass a quiz at the end of each. The 3 courses include tree planting best management practices, tree care BMPs, and tree pruning BMPs. And all the information is based on the U.S. Forest Service's tree owners manual, and we're also making that available to everybody as well. If they successfully pass each module, then they will get a certificate of completion, and the city can track that information once they've completed them. And then finally, I wanted to mention that this grant is also helping us sustain our tree plotter canopy subscription. And tree plotter canopy is a mapping tool that contains the LiDAR information that was collected during our urban forest master planning effort. It includes citywide canopy assessment data, and then also has census data incorporated into the map, which allows us to study canopy cover and plan canopy expansion related to 9 different criteria. Some of those criteria include searching for areas that have low canopy, looking for areas where we can address air quality issues or stormwater concerns, looking at underserved populations within our city, and also planting trees to affect human health outcomes, specifically related to asthma and mental health. And since Tree Plotter now has the capacity of incorporating canopy cover data that's collected from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, we're going to be able to see canopy cover changes over time. And that data is collected approximately every 2 years. So it may not alleviate the need for us to do another canopy assessment, but we'll be able to monitor changes through this mapping tool without that larger expense. So in conclusion, I just want to thank MnSTAC for this opportunity to share our story. I also want to express my gratitude to the U.S. Forest Service and the Inflation Reduction Act for the tremendous opportunity that will serve to expand canopy cover here in Rochester and help us reach our urban forest master plan goals, and also impact areas of Rochester that are in most need of the benefits that community forests provide. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeff. Yeah, I love that the emphasis on planning. You know, it does take a lot of effort. I know you said no trees are in the ground yet, but collecting all that data, making sure they're in a good spot and then going to be well cared for, I think is really a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. All right, next up we have Katie Edmond from Great River Greening.
Great, thank you so much. All right, let me just get my screen shared here. And perfect. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me this morning. My name is Katie Edmond. Let me know if these slides don't load. They might just need a minute here. But my name is Katie Edmond. I'm the program manager at Great River Greening for Urban and Community Forestry. And are you able to see my slides?
Not yet. They blinked.
Okay, they blinked. They teased us. Let me get out of the car and get back in here and see how we do. But yeah, so again, very grateful to be here this morning to speak with you all. We're so excited. I want to just echo our gratitude to the U.S. Forest Service, the USDA, the IRA funds. I think it's just such an exciting opportunity for all of us to expand the important urban canopy work that we're going to be doing. So let me navigate. Worst case, I'll move forward without the slides and you'll just get to hear my voice and see my lovely face. There we go. All right. So for those of you who might not be familiar with Great River Greening, we're a nonprofit organization. We're headquartered here in St. Paul, Minnesota. And we actually originated via a tree planting initiative. And so back in 1995, there was a massive community effort to green the Great River, to plant greenery, specifically trees and shrubs along the Mississippi River in downtown St. Paul. You can see our lovely before and after shot here. And so we were able to mobilize thousands of volunteers to plant thousands of trees and shrubs along the corridor there. And we've really continued that work in the subsequent decades. And so we engage communities throughout Minnesota. We're especially active here in the metro area. We do lots of hands-on volunteer events. I'll be posting the link to the website. You can join us. We do public events all year round. And we're also expanding our reach out into central and southern Minnesota as well. We do education, we do community engagement, and we also do work to grow the next generation of environmental stewards. And here's another lovely before and after shot of a ecosystem restoration project that we did along the shoreline here with some lovely volunteers who you can tell are just having the best time getting out there. But again, we're really so grateful for the opportunity to speak with you all today, and to the U.S. Forest Service, USDA, and the Inflation Reduction Act for funds that are allowing us to support a brand new initiative called Cooling Minnesota Communities. And so this is our new initiative. We received about $10 million from the USDA via IRA to start this project that is aimed at fighting the urban heat island effect and especially increasing equitable access to high quality tree canopy in urban areas. So in order to achieve this, we'll be doing a few different kind of buckets of things. We'll be planting trees. We're aiming to plant about 10,000 trees over the next 5 years. And we're working with several partners on this call, actually, as well as other experts to, as much as we can, future-proof the trees that we plant, knowing that temperature regimes are changing, precipitation patterns are changing, and we want to make sure that we're not just focused on getting trees in the ground, but on getting trees in the ground and then helping them survive and thrive and continue to provide benefits to communities over the next few decades here. And so we'll be working to mix in some climate resilient species to the diverse mix of species that we'll be planting. And we've also used the grant funds to actually build in watering, because we've heard from many of our partners that that's often the biggest hurdle. Once new trees are in the ground, in that critical 3-year window, watering is often the biggest challenge. And so we've actually built into the grant 3 years of watering for all newly planted trees. So we're very excited about that. We will also be doing some tree removals as part of this in order to support the healthy tree canopy, primarily dead ash trees that have been affected by emerald ash borer. We've got a lot of partners that, are just having huge swaths of trees that have had to come down because of EAB. And so we'll be using some grant funds to remove those, but we'll be planting far more trees than we're removing. And we'll also be hosting free giveaway events in these communities as well to give away free trees to community members to plant on their own private property. So we're very excited about all of those actions. And what we're especially excited about, you've heard me mention partners a couple of times, and this is, I think, one of the most unique aspects of our Cooling Minnesota Communities initiative, and one of the things that we're just most excited to get started on is the collaborative nature of the partnerships that we're building as part of this project. So we're actually working with 13 partners to do this tree planting, this tree removal, these free tree giveaways. So we're working with the cities mentioned here, both in the metro area and in South and Central Minnesota. So we're working with the city of Brooklyn Center, Faribault, Owatonna, St. Cloud, St. Paul, and Mankato. We'll also be working with several school districts. We're working with Brooklyn Center Community Schools, Osseo Area Schools, and St. Paul Public Schools. So we'll be planting new trees on school campuses, as well as working with students and teachers to get them out to help us plant those and to integrate in classroom learnings about, tree health, tree care, urban heat island effect, really working with those teachers and students to integrate the practical aspect of tree planting with what they're learning in the classroom. And that's not all. Those are not all the partners. We're also working with the St. Paul Public Housing Agency. We've got a big planting event coming up with them in early October at one of their communities. And we're also working with nonprofits like Frogtown Green, Mississippi Park Connection, and Urban Roots to support their tree giveaway initiatives, their tree planting work, their educational work. And so again, we're really just excited about this diverse mix of partners that we get to work with. Some of these folks we've worked with before, some we haven't. And so it's a mix of starting new relationships and then continuing to build on those foundations to develop these relationships even more. And so we're really excited to be able to extend the breadth and depth of the work that we've been doing in communities. In terms of the geographic breadth and depth, we're excited for this opportunity to expand our geographic reach. As I said, we do a lot of work in the metro area, but we're excited to be able to, with support of the IRA funding, expand our work in St. Cloud, into Faribault, and into Owatonna as well. And of course, within each of these municipalities, I do want to highlight that we are focusing our work on the communities that need it most. So we're looking at areas that are prone to urban heat island effect, that have low tree equity scores, and of course for these USDA dollars that fall within the federal climate and economic justice zones within each of these cities. We're also using these grant funds to just programmatically staff up. We have 3 staff who are dedicated specifically to the Cooling Minnesota Communities program. So I'm the program manager. We've also hired on an urban forester, as well as a community forestry and stewardship coordinator who's going to be focused directly on community outreach and engagement. And so we're really excited to be utilizing these USDA funds, but we recognize that this work is not just going to stop at the 5-year mark when these funds stop. We want to be continuing to build on this work, and we're looking forward to seeking and applying for other grant funding. We've also received state funding that's going to support this urban forestry work as well. And so we look forward to continuing to build out the team and build out these relationships that we have with these partners, and hopefully add additional partners, and we just keep kind of snowballing and growing and branching out, and any other tree metaphors that we'd like to use. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. My contact information is here on the screen. And again, you can always check out our website and our various social media channels if you're interested. We will be having public planting events in the coming years, so you can keep an eye out for those. But of course, we do all sorts of non-tree specific volunteer opportunities year-round as well. So we do plantings, we do ecosystem restoration. So check out the website, and we'd love to have you join us. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. Wow. It's exciting to see so many different partners listed on one grant. That's amazing work. Sometimes it feels like they're all separate and that has its place, but then seeing them integrated is awesome. Next up, we have Monica Rondazzo from Hennepin County. So Monica, whenever you're ready.
Let's see. Sonia, tell me that it's working.
It is working. Good
Okay.
to go.
All right. Hello, everyone. So I'm Monica Rondazzo with Hennepin County Environment and Energy. I may know some of you from past lives in urban forestry spaces. Otherwise, I'd love to be here. But so I am the Inflation Reduction Act Grant Coordinator for Hennepin County Environment and Energy within urban forestry. And I'm also just going to go through some of our activities. Oh, if I can. There we go. So, love your facial expression, Sonia. So this project is Beating the Heat Island in Hennepin County. We were awarded $10 million from the U.S. Forest Service, and we'll be using that towards working on disease tree removal from private properties. We opened up applications to that program in June, which I'll have more to say in a little bit. It's a very popular program, and so the community is really excited to see this opportunity for assistance. And then tree replanting is also a part of this, as well as community engagement and education, and then workforce development programming. So for the tree removal assistance program, we are focusing on low-income households and and then coordinating with our contractors to remove the trees from their property. It's no cost. This has been, as I just mentioned, a very, very popular program. So we received over 250 applications within the first 48 hours. So it has been a whole whirlwind, and we're learning a lot about how to go through that sort of process. But we have hired 2 tree inspectors, Aaron Snitker and Tanner Hall. They're out inspecting trees in the community and coordinating with residents now. And then we have started working with contractors, and we'll get going on removals pretty soon. So this is a really exciting component of the grant. For each tree removed, we're providing a free replacement tree, which will be planted by one of our workforce development crews or seasonal staff within Hennepin County. And then we provide free maintenance as well, following up for the first couple of years. We are replanting 2 to 1 for each removed tree. No resident is required to have more than 1 replacement tree on their property unless it suits the site or is something that they are open to and interested in. We will otherwise be finding locations nearby and replacing the trees removed from private property there. And then in this map, you can see on the upper right-hand corner as well, we are providing free tree plantings for anyone within those highlighted green outline zones. And so those are they're the CGEST zones, and then as well as some opportunity zones developed by Hennepin County years before. So any resident living within one of those areas can contact us and just receive a free tree planted on their property. Next big part, and my cat's here, by the way, for everyone to greet her. She loves it. The next component of the grant that is very exciting and we've gotten going on and are continuing to build off of is the community engagement and education pieces. So attending community events, just tabling and providing some entertainment. This is Leslie Alcantar. She is another Hennepin County employee. And we have teamed up to do a lot of outreach events. So creating puppets and shows and a lot of family engaging activities. And then we are also providing monthly learning series, which I'll talk about more in a moment, but a number of these are offered both Spanish and English through Leslie and I. And then in, this also includes a lot of direct resident outreach. So we've dedicated a lot of time to just remaining open to residents calling in with questions about any of the grant activities. And so prioritizing that time spent. So through our community engagement, we are focusing right now on just building relationships and partnerships outside of the industry and outside of where people have already been involved. And so this is really focused on a lot of like one-on-one time in the community, speaking with community members, spending a lot of time with families. So it's super duper fun. And then also we're looking forward to that being a long process of building really meaningful relationships. So the monthly learning series is our community education event, which is offered. It's been on Thursdays, and then as it gets colder, we'll move to Saturdays so that people can come out in daylight hours. But these are monthly events where we focus on some tree-related topic, and the ones that are coming up show that fun range. So tonight we're doing a tree seed art workshop at Pano Park. And then moving forward, going into topics like fruit tree care, winter tree identification, as well as stewardship tools and techniques for residents who are interested in getting more involved and advocating for their communities, and then mental health and green space and nature writing and many more. If you have ideas, I love hearing them, so reach out anytime. And then finally, our workforce development programming. We will be getting started on this upcoming spring. So we are contracting to have 2 crews for youth and adult introductory tree care programming. And then these 2 crews will also be providing the ongoing maintenance of the replanted trees through the tree removal assistance program in partnership with our seasonal staff and forestry staff at Hennepin County. But this will include not just that maintenance piece, but also education and work experience and work skills for those who are part of the program. And then we are also contracting to provide an adult apprenticeship program. So creating an arboriculture apprenticeship opportunity for folks to build experience and reduce barriers to employment. And I've taken up enough time. So for any questions, contact down the line. You can email treehelp@hennepin.us and you'll get one of us on the IRA team. And then my contact, monica.rondazzo@hennepin.us. Happy to connect with folks, love hearing ideas and experiences. So please reach out. And then below is our website, the Urban Community Forestry website. Thank you.
We love you, Monica. You can take up more time. I was kidding. Yeah, that's awesome. I also want to attend your puppet show. That looks like so much fun, and I've heard great things.
Lil Monica and Lil Leslie, they're the real stars. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then we next up have Ryan Murphy from the University of Minnesota. And I don't believe you have slides, Ryan, so feel free to just talk.
Sure. Well, hey, everybody. Nice to be on the other side of the mic. Sonia doing a great job moderating. I would suspect that you'll be seeing a lot more of Sonia here in the MnSTAC context. Sonia is going to be taking over more of a leadership role as part of her position here at the University of Minnesota as the volunteer and partnerships coordinator here in the U4 lab. So I am here as a representative of our IRA project titled Urban Tree Diversity in the Upper Midwest, Resilience Through Education. And this is a separate program. And I know we've interacted a lot with the professional community through our U4 work here from the Department of Forest Resources. So this is a different group that received this funding. The PI or principal investigator on this project is Dr. Brandon Miller, who is an assistant professor in Department of Horticultural Science. Maybe you've seen Brandon present at the Shade Tree Short Course. He's presented here on MnSTAC. Brandon's also a state extension specialist with a focus on specialty horticultural crops, utilizing, underutilized woody plants. He's also the curator of plant collections at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. So it's great to have Brandon here integrating into our professional community as well. We also got Dr. Eric Watkins, who you might know, professor in Department of Horticultural Science and also vice provost for distributed learning. Eric leads the turf grass research program, but also is an awesome educator. And now with his new role as vice provost for distributed learning, will be working with those resources here at the university to help distribute the educational content that we'll be creating. Rounding out the team is Dr. Michael Barnes, who's a researcher and lecturer in Department of Horticultural Science, as well as the Department of Forest Resources. And Mike has a specialization in utilizing interdisciplinary approaches to understand complex socio-ecological, technological systems, and works at the intersection of social science, sustainability, and health. So it will be a big part of developing educational materials and facilitating community engagement. And I am also Ryan Murphy, researcher, Department of Forest Resources, collaborating on the project. So our main project goals, we've got 3 overarching goals. First, implementing and demonstrating thoughtful tree selection of underutilized species that will help diversify the plant palette and increase the resilience of our urban forests here in Minnesota. Second, we're going to be engaging disadvantaged communities in that planting process to promote interest, broader access, and equity to these urban inhabitants. And third, providing and supporting workforce development efforts and opportunities for community members to support long-term sustainability and economic growth and get new folks interested and into career paths. So I'll just mention a few different phases that we're going to be going through in terms of implementing and achieving these goals. First, as a university, we're going to be focusing on curriculum and resource development. There's a lot of resources, and I know a lot of the projects are also creating a lot of really great resources. But we'll be updating existing university resources, for example, through university extension, and promoting or developing multimedia types of content. And we have some principles that we'll be following and trying to hit on. Proactive improvement of the urban forest resilience in anticipation of severe weather events, and then also, working to restore damaged landscapes. Of course, diversifying urban forest composition to hedge our bets against future exotic invasive pests, and just, again, create a more resilient urban forest. And then third principle here is broadening equitable urban tree canopy cover to support community access to human health, social, ecological, and economic benefits among communities, and especially in places where there's fewer green resources. So we'll be first front-loading a lot of curriculum and content development, and then we'll be getting out into communities through partnership. And we've already been lucky enough to be able to do some of this in collaboration with Minneapolis Health Department in providing workshops. But yeah, so we'll be using a nature-based learning approach to promote more active and engaged educational experiences. For example, getting out to planting events in communities. We'll be hopefully being able to partner with Hennepin County in the coming years to provide education at multiple, maybe in multiple municipalities or Hennepin County events specifically. And workforce development has been mentioned a few times and will continue to be mentioned. But we also will be supporting workforce development programs. Specifically, we are partnering with Spark Y and Project Sweetie Pie to offer training experiences to their cohorts of youth from disadvantaged communities in Minneapolis, and getting them introduced and starting that process of training and becoming familiar with the field of arboriculture and urban forestry. So those are sort of the main takeaways, I think, for our project. And I guess I'll now turn it back to Sonia to facilitate some more discussion from the group or field questions from the audience.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much, Ryan. Yes. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. If you prefer, you can also unmute yourself. I think I'll start out with one that any of the panel folks can answer or pop in on. Being part of the MnSTAC board, the state tree board, what are some things that come to mind where you would like assistance from, or you're curious of like, these are our top priorities and we think we could use, partners for getting the message out there, or there's specific resources that you haven't seen developed where you're like, oh, we could do this in partnership, or if you have great ones to share too, in addition to what you already talked about.
And maybe as folks think about that, I'll also just mention something that we're working on here at the university, specifically in collaboration with Dr. Alicia Coleman, who is our urban and community forestry professor. We're hoping to develop a micro-credential. So something that it will actually, if folks complete the course, it will actually earn a college credit. So it'll be sort of something that is great for early career professionals or even high school students. And then, or also a way for folks who are maybe not in the track of that traditional secondary type higher education to get familiarized through university educators about urban and community forestry. And it will sort of follow the ISA kind of study guide and sort of lead folks towards becoming certified arborists. So I just thought I'd throw that out there as a potential offering that will be coming down the line from the university.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Cool. And I just popped into the chat too some of the links I mentioned earlier that I would I would put in the chat. I realized I hadn't done that, so feel free to connect with those. Anybody have any other thoughts?
Can you repeat your question, Sonia? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking as, the MnSTAC board, I was thinking as our role as a statewide organization, and we're helping connect and get messages out there, reduce rewriting the wheel. If there are any priorities that you're like, whoa, I've seen a lot of these today. Here's a couple of things that would be really nice to collaborate on, or demystify.
I could chime in, Sonia. One that I was making serious notes about is resources for residents or community members who are planting trees or want to care for their trees, those kind of tree care best management practices. We've been writing some things up ourselves because, as I said, we've got a tree giveaway coming up this weekend, but I think we want to make sure that we're also, like you say, not reinventing the wheel, that we can be amplifying additional resources. And so I'll definitely be looking to connect with folks about kind of the tree care tips and tricks that you're producing, and making sure that we're amplifying and co-supporting and not needlessly duplicating efforts. So we'll definitely look out for emails from me about tree care.
Love it, love it. And right, and I think one of the good things too is then we can focus on, like, instead of just this different levels, like, hey, these are the ones that are really work great for kids. These are the ones that really work great for residents, and then put them in multiple languages versus all trying to do just best planting, which is the beauty. And you have certainly the list of partners already too, where it's pretty exciting. Yeah.
I think that with any of the workforce development components too, there's like endless opportunities with that all of the time. But from speaking with some folks who have been participants of different workforce development programs or things that are connected to urban forestry, I think that there's always more potential for us to, like, within the industry, meet and kind of work through, like, why do certain barriers exist? How can we on our end make changes and adjustments so that these sort of like workforce pipeline programs are actually functioning in a way that doesn't introduce a new version of barriers to employment for people. And I don't have any more thought out details about that, but I think that that's like a great opportunity for us within the industry to be talking about in like much more intentional ways.
Yeah, creating that space to take a step back and look at things as a whole strategically, like you said, addressing barriers, but not creating new ones, and thinking about who's at the table, who should we be inviting and including, where are the gaps. I think someone or a couple people mentioned capacity to work with folks that are traditionally outside of the industry, right? A lot of people in the know are like, no, but reaching out to folks that are maybe like, didn't know an arborist existed, or didn't know that there were trees that should or shouldn't be planted, making sure that we're getting really down to meeting folks where they're at. Looks like there's a couple resources on the chat too. And if any panelists have questions for the other panelists, that's too, you can, doesn't. Oh, we've got one coming in. Do you think some of these private property programs will continue after IRA funds are spent? So I know a couple of people mentioned hopefully, but Sydney, it looks like you're unmuted.
Yes, I can share. So we are really lucky to have had funding for private property tree planting on both residential sites and then commercial private property, like businesses, organizations, nonprofits, before this IRA funding. So that will definitely continue for us. We don't know obviously how far the IRA funding for the tree removals will go. We have an estimate of how many trees. We think it'll cover just over 2,000 trees. Like I said, we've done about 50 applications so far. Some of those have had 2 or 3 trees condemned in their yard. So we don't know if the grant period's 5 years. We're not sure if it's going to last the whole 5 years. We hope we can make it last as long as possible while still getting the funds to the people who need them. But I do think that the IRA funding and like being able to show our city council how helpful that has been for and how needed it has been for those property owners that qualify for the program, I think we would have a compelling argument to hopefully be able to either secure future grant funds or some city budget to continue the funding of private property removals as well. I think we all know that tree planting is always easy for city councils and places like that to fund, and tree removals are a little bit harder. But I definitely am hopeful that this funding would help prove that point, that the funding for the tree removals is really needed too.
Yeah, and that makes a great point too, because if someone gets a tree removed, and they have to pay thousands, they might not want to plant a tree again. But if they're getting help, or at least partly, or even full, or understanding, you can keep that stream of hopefully tree joy going. Anyone else? Jeff?
Yeah, I had something to add. This year, the city of Rochester, actually the community development department reached out to us and said, hey, we've got money to help low income families with tree removals on private property. And I apologize because I didn't come prepared to talk about this, and I don't recall what the source of the money was, but they ended up providing like $100,000, nearly $100,000 of assistance to low-income property owners here on high-risk tree removals on private property. So we do have a program outside of the IRA funding to help with that. And it's my understanding it's going to continue. Not sure how long, but it's been very well received.
Yeah, that was a wonderful question. It always seems like with grants, you play the game, oh, we got a grant. Okay, what's the next grant? How can we keep this funding exciting things going? Awesome. Well, any other questions? Give it about a few more seconds. Oh, great. One from Fiona. So cool to see watering built into the grant. Yes, amazing. Has anyone else found creative ways to include long-term maintenance or have plans for other streams of funding?
I can share. Obviously watering and maintenance on private property is really hard. We have thought about the idea of providing direct watering services. I know that there are some other cool programs out there that do not necessarily providing direct services, but doing incentive programs. I forget what other city it is, and if you are here, please let me know. That has something like you scan a QR code on your tree every time you water it. When you water the tree 10 times, you get a gift card or something like that. So we have done those community tree workshops is our effort to help people understand the maintenance required, help them learn a little bit more and feel more confident in caring for the tree, answering questions that they have when we're there to plant it, giving them those resources. In addition to the tree owner's manual, we have some in-house planting and pruning brochures that are translated as well. And so trying to empower people as much as possible to know about how much to water their tree, how to protect their tree in the winter, and things like that. But it's definitely a challenge on private property when you don't have full control of the trees.
I guess I'm gonna plug one of Sonia's programs, the Tree Steward program. So utilizing trained volunteers in communities to help maintain trees. I think there's a few issues that come to my mind in terms of making that work. One is a municipality being okay with residents pruning trees, for example. But there is a St. Paul Tree Steward program where they have a cohort of volunteers that go around and prune young trees that have been planted. Just trees that they can prune from the ground, maybe with some pull tools, but 2 feet on the ground. When it comes to watering, one of the challenges is just getting access to the equipment that folks need to the reality of watering trees around a city. So if that means how do you get volunteers, and how are we okay with volunteers driving trucks with water trailers? So there's barriers there, but I wonder if there aren't creative ways to do it. I know there's a small there's a nonprofit organization in St. Paul here called the Creative Enterprise Zone, CEZ, and they have a 100 Trees initiative, and they actually were able to set up a truck and a water trailer that volunteers were able to utilize and drive around and water trees planted in boulevard situations. So Tree Steward program, again, University of Minnesota can come out to communities and help train volunteers on a variety of these topics. And then the goal of that program is to have a trained cohort of volunteers that can provide some of this basic tree care maintenance and take the burden off of public staff that can then take care of the larger, higher issues or more dangerous situations.
Thanks, Ryan, for the plug. I was thinking of that too. And like Ryan said, yeah, there are challenges, but we're always happy to talk through and connect you with other groups. We have people up in Ely, Morris, down in La Crescent, St. Paul, Hennepin County, starting one up in Washington County. So working with volunteers, you do want training and folks to feel empowered and then have great relationships with the professionals. So happy to talk about that. That can be a great way to increase some capacity. You know, nothing is a magic bullet, but if we put all these things together, we can make some great work. Cool. And I did drop that in the chat too. Awesome. Wow.
I could add a little bit, just briefly.
Sure.
The reason that I showed the pruning online training course that we developed, and the reason that we started with that one of the 3 that we're going to work on is because we are getting intense pressure from city council to allow more flexibility for our residents to do this type of work to trees that impact their use of their private property. So that's the other useful way we're using that training portal, is that anybody who goes through that training and receives a certificate would be allowed to prune branches 2 inches and smaller on public trees that impact their property.
I feel like I want to take that course and check it out. It sounds really cool. Cool. We'll connect, Jeff.
I'll try to share the link here if you don't stop the meeting too quickly here.
Okay. I'll talk quite slowly. Well,
Otherwise, we can send it out to the group later.
sure. I can put it on our YouTube channel page too, with the recording. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for attending. Thank you to our marvelous panelists, and for sharing your knowledge and a little peek into what your IRA grant money is going to be focused on. Look forward to hearing more as the years go by. And cool. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.